My name isn't important. What matters is what I've seen. For 17 years, I've been the church's last resort. Not for blessings or Sunday sermons, but for infestations. Entities that twist the natural order that lurk in homes. Hearts and minds. I've walked into places where the air feels alive, where shadows defy light, where something ancient watches waiting. Most times I can cast it out. Most times I can bring peace. But 3 winters ago, in a lonely farmhouse in rural Ohio, I faced something that didn't just challenge my faith. It clawed at my soul. It wasn't just a demon. It was older, smarter, and it knew me. This is what happened. January. A biting cold that sank into your bones. I just finished a routine cleansing in Pennsylvania. A poltergeist. Nothing I hadn't handled before. My phone rang as I sat in a diner nursing black coffee. It was Father Brennan, an old seminary friend. His voice trembled barely above a whisper. "Michael, I need you in Westwood tonight." This isn't ordinary. I pressed him for details. He hesitated, then said, "It speaks Mike and it knows my name." Westwood was a speck of a town in Ohio. 1 gas station, 1 diner, endless fields of frozen farmland. The snowstorm battered my car as I drove 4 hours through the night. When the farmhouse came into view, it stood alone, surrounded by skeletal trees. Its windows were dark, except for one. The attic. A shadow flickered there, too quick to be human. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Whatever was in that house was waiting for me. The Miller family sat around their kitchen table, faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Jack the father looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. His wife Laura kept glancing at the ceiling, hands trembling. Their 2 children, Emma 12 and Sarah 6, sat unnaturally still, eyes locked on me. Something was wrong with their gaze, like they were seeing through me. It started with noises, Jack said, voice hollow, scratching in the walls, doors creaking open at night. Then the voices Laura cut in, voice sharp with panic. It doesn't just talk, it knows things. Things about us. Secrets we've never told anyone. I asked what kind of secrets. Jack's face darkened. It told Emma about my brother. How he died. She was only 2 when it happened. She couldn't know. Upstairs, a heavy thud echoed. The ceiling groaned. Emma whispered something under her breath. I leaned closer, catching the words. Latin. Guttural and ancient. Domus mea peccata. Tua. My house, your sins. My blood ran cold. I climbed the stairs alone, crucifix heavy in my hand. The air grew colder with every step, breath visible in the dim light. The hallway seemed to stretch, walls subtly shifting as if the house itself was alive. I pushed open the attic door. The stench hit me. Rotting meat, mixed with something metallic like old blood. In the center of the room was an old rocking chair, creaking back and forth. No one was in it. Who's here? I asked, voice steady, despite the dread curling in my gut. The chair stopped. From the shadows, a voice answered. Low, guttural, layered like a chorus of whispers. You are too late, Father. I raised my crucifix, reciting the Lord's Prayer. The air thickened, pressing against my chest. The voice laughed, a sound that crawled under my skin. You think your words can bind me? I was here before your God. Something moved in the corner. A shape. Tall, impossibly thin limbs bending wrong. It didn't step toward me. It slid like oil across water. I didn't flinch. I'd faced worse. Or so I thought. Back downstairs, I questioned the family further. Laura admitted they'd found an old journal in the attic when they moved in 2 years ago. It belonged to a previous owner, Elias Ward, who vanished in the 1800s. The journal mentioned rituals and offerings to something called the Keeper of the Hollow. Jack handed me the journal, its leather cover cracked and stained. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting sketches of symbols I didn't recognize and warnings. It demands a price. It always comes back.
I asked to see where they'd found it. Laura led me to a crawl space beneath the attic floorboards. Inside, I found more than just dust. A rusted iron box etched with the same symbols from the journal. Inside the box, bones, small ones. Too small to be human, or so I hoped. As I held one of the bones, the house shook. A scream tore through the walls, not from the family, but from everywhere. Over the next 48 hours, the house became a battlefield. The children spoke in tongues, Latin, Aramaic languages dead for centuries. Furniture levitated, slamming into walls. Shadows stretched across the rooms, forming shapes with too many limbs. But the worst came on the third night.
We were in the living room. The ritual underway. I'd blessed the space, lit candles, sprinkled holy water. The family clung to each other, praying with me. Then Sarah, the 6-year-old, began to scream. Her back arched unnaturally, body twisting like a puppet on strings. Her voice changed. My mother's voice dead 5 years. Michael, you failed me once. Will you fail them too? I froze. My mother's death wasn't just a loss. It was my failure. I hadn't been there when she needed me most. The entity knew that. It was digging into my soul, pulling out my deepest shame. Emma's eyes rolled back. She spoke next, voice deep and wrong. You cannot cast out what was invited. The candles flickered out. The room plunged into darkness. I demanded answers from the family. Jack broke down, confessing they'd been desperate. The farm was failing. Debts piling up. They'd found the journal, and in a moment of weakness, tried one of Elias Ward's rituals. We didn't think it would work. He sobbed. We just wanted help. But something had answered. Something that wasn't God. I realized then, this wasn't a random haunting. The entity had been summoned. It had a foothold because the Millers had opened the door. I found the ritual's instructions in the journal. It required a sacrifice to banish the entity. Something personal, something precious. I looked at the family faces, pale and terrified. I didn't know if they had the strength to do what was needed. I prepared for the final ritual. The house fought back. Windows shattered, walls bled a black tar-like substance. I anointed the children with oil, chanting prayers as the entity roared through the house. Sarah's body levitated, voice a cacophony of screams. You cannot undo what was promised, it bellowed. I pressed on, voice steady. By the blood of Christ, you have no hold here. The entity targeted me next. The air grew heavy. I saw visions. My mother weeping, blaming me. My failures as a priest, as a son, as a man played out in my mind. But I'd faced evil before. It thrives on doubt. I focused on the family, on their desperate need for salvation. I drove the crucifix into the floor, shouting the rite of exorcism. The house shook violently, then silence. Sarah collapsed, breathing softly. The air warmed, the shadows retreated. For now it was over. The Millers survived, but they were changed. They burned the journal and moved away, vowing never to speak of that night. I told them to pray, to rebuild their faith. But I saw the doubt in their eyes. I wish I could say I left that house unscathed. But at night when the world is quiet, I hear it. My mother's voice whispering from the dark. You're still too late. Michael, I've faced hundreds of cases since. But that farmhouse, that entity, it wasn't just a demon. It was something older. Something that knew my name before I ever stepped inside. My name isn't important, but my work is. Because someone has to walk into the dark when everyone else runs away. And sometimes I wonder if I'm walking towards salvation or damnation.